October 25th, 1415, northern France. Picture this, you're standing on a muddy field at dawn. Across the valley, 25,000 French soldiers, shining in armor worth a fortune, dukes, counts, barons, the entire flower of French nobility. They outnumber the enemy more than 4 to 1. They're rested, well-fed, on home soil. They're about to crush an enemy so exhausted they can barely stand. Now look at the English. 6,000 men. Most are Longbowmen, peasants with wooden stakes and muddy boots. Many are sick. Many are starving. Some haven't slept in days. Their king, Henry V, is feverish. Meanwhile, French lords were already dividing the English nobility. To the French, this wasn't a battle. This was the execution of a starving army. Now watch what happens next. By sunset, 10,000 Frenchmen are dead, including some of the most powerful nobles in Europe. The English lost maybe 400. Let that sink in. How did a starving army break the finest knights in Europe? One exhausted English soldier survived what 25 armored French knights could not. Something on that field dragged men under. Even armored knights couldn't escape it. Longbowmen loosed so many arrows that the sky turned black. Here's the tactic that looked like suicide. Henry V wanted the French to charge. He needed them to take the bait because he was hiding a weapon the French weren't ready for. The French thought they were charging peasants. They were charging a trap. And why did France walk straight into the deadliest choke point of the century? By the end of this video, you will know exactly how. Sacrifice your comment, like, and subscribe. This is Agincourt, where 6,000 broken soldiers destroyed the pride of France and forged the legend of a king. Why did this battle happen at all? To understand how an English army outnumbered 4 to 1 crushed France's elite, you need to know something. For decades, England and France had been locked in a struggle over crowns, land, and dynasties, what we now call the 100 Years' War. This wasn't supposed to be a major English campaign. By 1415, England was weak. Plagues, political coups, bankrupt kings. Who would invade France like this? Only one man dared, Henry V. Young, focused, deadly serious about restoring English honor. He needed a victory, fast, so he did the unthinkable. He took the fight to France. Henry invaded in August 1415 and captured the Port Harfleur. But the victory came at a brutal cost. Disease tore through his army. Supplies vanished. Men collapsed in the mud. Hundreds died of dysentery. By October, the campaign was dying. Retreat was the only sane choice. But France had other plans. France assembled a juggernaut. 10,000 knights, armored nobles trained for crushing hand-to-hand combat. 4,000 mounted horsemen, fast, disciplined riders built for shock attacks. 6,000 heavy men-at-arms, veterans with swords, poleaxes, and maces. 2,000 crossbowmen, and 3,000 archers and levies. 25,000 warriors ready to erase the English in a single charge. But they didn't just want to stop an invasion. They wanted revenge for Crécy and Poitiers, humiliations France had carried for 70 years. Henry began marching toward Calais, his closest stronghold, but the French raced ahead to cut him off. They weren't hunting an army. They were hunting a cornered king. October 24th, night before the battle. Rain hammered Agincourt. Mud thickened into glue. The English shivered under soaked tents or slept in the open. No food, no warmth, no comfort. Across the valley, French nobles feasted. Wine bread, roasted meats. They sang, laughed, celebrated early victory. Some even polished their armor for the parade they expected. The next morning, Henry gathered his captains. "We may die tomorrow," he told them. "But if we die fighting." The English camp fell silent. No songs, no boasts, just rain and the sound of distant French laughter. Then came dawn, revealing the battlefield. Henry formed his men into a single narrow line, not because it was his ideal plan, but because the land forced him. His 6,000 men stood between two dense forests, a corridor barely wide enough for a few hundred abreast, a natural bottleneck. A killing ground, exactly where French numbers couldn't wrap around them, only smash straight ahead. English longbowmen forced wooden stakes into the mud, angled like the jaws of some primitive beast. Across the valley, the French deployed like a rising tide. Front line, 10,000 dismounted knights. Second line, 6,000 men at arms. Deep ranks pushing behind the nobles. Flanking wings, 4,000 cavalry, 2,000 per side, ready to crush the English longbowmen. Rear line, 2,000 crossbowmen and 3,000 archers. A human wall tightening the valley into a funnel of bodies and iron. The two armies stared at each other, and nothing happened. The French expected the English to sit, starve, and die. Henry knew waiting meant the same thing, so he made a move no one expected. Banners forward! English longbowmen yanked their sharpened stakes from the ground, advanced several dozen paces, and drove them back into the mud. An insult, a challenge, a message the French couldn't ignore. French units scrambled to reorganize. Horses snorted, slipping in the thick clay. Then Henry unleashed his second surprise, archers hidden in the woods. 200 longbowmen opened fire from the tree line. A sudden storm of arrows tearing into shields, horses, and plate. Their hunting calls mocked the nobles they were killing. French pride snapped. Someone in the front ranks screamed, "Charge!" The French tidal wave began to move. On each wing, 2,000 mounted nobles surged forward first. Hooves sinking deep, horses slipping, riders fighting to stay upright as the mud dragged at their mounts. Still, they pushed on, trying to swing around and crush the longbowmen. They galloped straight into a hurricane of arrows. Visors pierced. War horses shot down mid-stride. Panicked riders crashed into their own infantry, wreaking chaos in the second line before it even joined the fight. The French cavalry, meant to win the flanks, collapsed in minutes. The French front line of 10,000 dismounted knights pushed toward the English stakes under relentless arrow fire. Arrows didn't pierce their plate, but they shattered joints, cut tendons, crushed windpipes. By the time the knights reached the stakes, they were bleeding. Still, their sheer mass slammed into the English line. The trap snapped shut. English men-at-arms braced behind their stakes, striking downward at knights trapped. The longbowmen held back, for now, loosing volley after volley over the English line, hammering the French ranks as they stumbled forward. French plate meant immobility. English mail and leather meant survival. Then the second French wave, 6,000 heavy men-at-arms, slammed into the rear of their own knights. They didn't reinforce the attack. They buried it. The French were crushing themselves. Henry saw it. He whispered to his captains, "Hold, let them come." And they came, helpless, blind, sinking deeper with every step. Only then did the longbowmen drop their bows, axes, mallets, knives. They rushed in from the flanks, nimble in the mud, carving into the mass of armored bodies that couldn't turn to face them. The valley became a grinder. Knights drowned face down, and in the chaos, Henry fought in the front ranks. At the rear, the last 5,000, crossbowmen, archers, levies, watched the disaster unfolding. They were out of range. Advance, retreat, they froze. They had never seen their nobles die like this. The French collapse began suddenly. Those who could still stand staggered backward. Those who couldn't were swallowed by armor, bodies, and mud. The third French line watched the disaster unfold and chose not to die in it. They withdrew without striking a blow. By early afternoon, the field was silent. 10,000 French dead, 400 English lost, a 25-to-1 ratio that defied every law of medieval warfare. Agincourt didn't just break a French army. It unleashed the longbow as the terror weapon of its age. It shattered the confidence of a kingdom. It proved that discipline, mud, and English steel could humble Europe's richest nobles. And at the center stood Henry V, young, feverish, unyielding, a king forged in mud who reshaped the balance of the 100 Years' War. If you liked this video, now take a look at this one.